I realized I had crutches on my whole life. I can't imagine like being in this day and age trying to find a woman like your friend. That is it's a scary thing, you know, and but I think the more you do it, the easier it becomes.
Over the next decade, he built a career as an athletic conditioning coach for fighters and athletes, combining discipline, strength, and performance. Tonight, sitting back with me is Arian Soltero.
My dad had a lot of situations because he worked for the FBI that put him in the hospital. He was like thrown out of a moving car. Okay, I can't go into my relationships thinking that someone is being dishonest because of these tells that I got, and then trying to prove it by collecting data. When I asked him what brought them here, he said, I used to do a lot of cocaine and a lot of drugs, and I just wanted to get away from my dealer. So I'm here, I know no one, and I just want to start over. If it's even remotely true and he can bring out this lie, I'm good. Like, no one's finding that body.
Howdy, y'all, and welcome back to another episode on David's Saturday Night Sit Back, where I'm on a hunt to find people with untold stories, grit, and lessons that'll not only light your internal fire, but maybe even shift how you see the world and help you find out who you are. Before we get started, I have a favor to ask you. Hit that subscribe button if you're watching on YouTube, or that follow button if you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. It's free. It takes 3 seconds, and it tells me that this podcast means something to you. This show is much more than about just making content. It's about connection, and you're part of the DSNSB network now. Before I introduce my guest, you guys, I have a really exciting announcement to make and an invitation to extend to you that if you live in Austin, Texas, we are doing our first podcast in front of a live audience on Saturday, February 28th at 1 p.m. at the Downtown Public Library Central location. If you scroll down in the show notes, there'll be a link so that you can register, and it's just going to be an electric event of networking, storytelling, and I hope you guys can be a part of it. So come on out on February 28th and join us. Tonight, sitting back with me is someone whose roots lie in Palo Alto, California, and he was raised in a proud Mexican-American household. While the Bay Area was becoming a hub of tech and new ideas, he stood out with his love for country music and its lifestyle, something that didn't quite fit the mold of Palo Alto at the time. At 16, his father encouraged him to learn combat sports as both a tool for self-defense and a potential path toward a career in law enforcement. He started with MMA and jiu-jitsu, spending 3 years on the mats before dedicating fully to boxing. He met his mentor, Michael Bizel, in 2011. Michael introduced him not only to boxing, but also to training, conditioning, and a new way of seeing life. His mentorship shifted his trajectory completely. He thought he would follow in his father's footsteps into law enforcement, but found his true calling in helping others through training. Over the next decade, he built a career as an athletic conditioning coach for fighters and athletes, combining discipline, strength, and performance. Fast forward 10 years, and he recently opened Strong Coffee Company Trailer as an opportunity to serve others in a new way through community, good coffee, and connection, while also creating content and building social media partnerships. Tonight, sitting back with me is Arian Soltero. Arian, thank you for who you are. Thank you for being here, and welcome to your episode on David's Saturday Night Sit Back.
Thank you. No, thank you for having me. I appreciate being on here.
Yeah, man. How are you doing?
I am doing well. You know, it's a busy day. My wife likes to say, you know, do you have a day off? And I constantly reflect on the fact that I don't technically have a day off, but it's because I switched roles from still being a trainer part-time to owning the coffee shop, of course, and doing some social media presence, as you stated there. And but I love it. You know, I love it. I love keeping myself busy and being hooked up in the community and doing all that I can to kind of help people in different facets.
How have you seen either your own community expand or other people's communities expand since opening the coffee shop? Have you experienced that yet?
I want to say I haven't really, or not to the extent that I would like to see it. We've only been open, I think our first day was June 29th. So, you know, a couple months now, and it's still like something where, you know, we're figuring out all that we can do with community, with events. I actually want to start this, I want to call it a strong stroll after the Strong Coffee trailer, of course. and have it be, every other Tuesday where most people are doing running clubs in the city, which is totally fine. I love running clubs. My wife does too. She loves running. But I want to do something where you can't like always have a chat with someone during a run, you know, if you're like really trying to go after it. And so my thought was like give them an incentive to come to the truck, which is, between maybe I almost wanted to give out like free black coffee, like something that's truly like, oh, wow, that's kind of cool. They're giving out free black coffee versus like, oh, 10% off of your purchase, so free black coffee and you have a walking club where you get to meet up with people and like go on a brisk walk around the lake or somewhere downtown, but also at the same time you're doing that community while moving. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
One of my favorite winter activities, we do it pretty consistently starting, man, I'm hoping in the next weekend or two, but once it cools down, me and anywhere from about 80 to 100 people get together every Saturday morning for a 5-mile walk. It ends up taking about 2.5 hours.
Oh, wow.
And the three rules of the group are bring something to talk about, no selling, and no dating. It's purely just let's get together and talk about stuff. Generally, we hover around the 80 topics or so that all of us bring. Yeah. But it's awesome, man, because to your point, when you're running, if you're actually jogging or running, you're probably not talking much.
No.
But when you're moving with someone and talking versus sitting across a table and like almost interviewing each other, like first date status, I feel like the conversations are 10 times higher quality when you're moving for whatever reason.
Yeah, 100%. I believe that. And I heard it from someone years ago on a podcast. They mentioned that in their staff meetings, it was at a gym that they worked at. They owned a gym together, and every meeting that they had, like every Monday or whenever they had this meeting, they would go on a walk during the meeting. They wouldn't have it in an office like everyone wanted to. They were like, okay, let's just like everyone get like a drink or whatever you need, and we're just going to go on a walk and talk about like the gym successes and stats, what we need, conversion rates, all the stuff that you normally talk about in a boardroom. They were like, let's just go on a walk and talk. And they were like, it just changed the trajectory and their business tenfold. Was like people felt happier after and actually wanting to attend a mandatory meeting, because it was on a walk, and they just felt like moving encourages ideas too, right? Creativity. So why not combine those two things?
Yeah, I feel like me and my workout buddy, he's a drummer for a band. I have the podcast, and I feel like we get our best ideas in the gym, where there'll be something that we're thinking about, like, how do we market this? How do we fix it? Whatever the thing is that we're sort of mulling over. And then we'll get in the gym, and 45 minutes into it, one of us just goes, hey, wait, write this down. Here's the answer.
Yep. Yeah, I've been the same way. I almost have to lock up my phone because of that reason, because I'll just get an idea and want to start like working on it, or start Googling something like, oh, is this going to work out? Or start like, get on Canva and want to create some advertisement of some sort. I'm like, what am I doing? I'm in the middle of the workout. Let me just finish this, go home and, take some notes, maybe, if that.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. Well, before we jump too deep into things, in your intro, which again, thank you for helping me put that together. That was a lot of things about you that are very external, but at the end of the day, our jobs and our hobbies is, maybe 1/5 of who we are.
Yeah.
If I was just to ask you directly, who is Arian? How would you answer? What would that answer be?
Wow, I don't think I've ever been asked that. I would say that, outside of, accolades and achievements and all the things that I've done in my career for the last 12 to 13 years, I'm like a very goofy person, I love to laugh. I'm like very into comedy. My mom was also just very like comical and quirky, and I like to believe I got my sense of humor from her. And not to, if my dad ever watches this, not to say you're not funny, Dad. But yeah, she was just like such a cool and funky person. And I think like, my wife always likes to say that when I meet people for the first time, she was like, you're so like stiff. And I wish more people saw you how I see you and how your brothers see you and how your family see you, which is like such a goofy, like you don't take yourself so seriously person. And I think it's the career path too, like personal training and like presenting that. Like I being an athlete and a boxer is like this thing that I had since I started fighting and doing that type of sport, 16 years old. And so I was like, okay, everyone's like this, right? Like walking and talking and presenting themselves with, this puffed chest. And so you start to like mirror or mimic that. And then you go home and you kind of take that off and you're like, oh, I'm just like I like to laugh, have fun, be a goofy person. And so, I think that's like the root of who I am, is someone who doesn't take themselves so seriously.
So when you came here today, your wife's not here, but you also weren't going to be a personal trainer either. We're almost like colleagues in a way,
Yeah.
What version of you showed up today, do you think?
I want to say that it's like a halfway. I'm getting better since being at the coffee trailer, obviously, and having to re-identify or like find my identity outside of personal trainer or personal training. I kind of don't know how to present myself anymore, so I just like meet people and go from there. Like I have like a default, obviously, like that everyone has when they're meeting someone that is a stranger or someone they don't have a good foundation of or have a relationship with prior to meeting them. So yeah, I kind of feel like I kind of show up less with that intensity than I used to. And I feel, hopefully that comes off also, is that I'm not this rigid person all the time, or maybe it was amplified before when I was exclusively a personal trainer. But I feel like I showed up today just kind of me, more so or less.
You seem just sort of chill.
Yeah.
I would say not rigid, but I don't think I'm getting the loosest version of you either.
Yeah.
But we also have never met before. So I feel like you always have your guard up, even if it's like 5% up. Maybe it's mostly down. We sort of keep that wall up until we figure out, who's this David guy?
Yeah.
He has a dog and we're in this apartment we've never been in before. So no, I bet you come off as very friendly to me, and I've enjoyed we were talking for... Dude, we were talk no problem for 40 minutes before even hitting the record button. So off to a good start, I say. Yeah.
Love that.
I have a picture I want to show you. It's one of the only pictures I could find of your almost 1,000 pictures on your Instagram account.
I know, I'm close to 1,000.
That was not boxing related. Is this your family?
That is my family. Yep.
Who's in that?
So that's my mom, my 2 younger brothers. I have a younger sister as well. She was born, she's 5 years old now, so obviously, she wasn't in this photo at that time, but this was probably 2017, 2018. And all my brothers met up, and we, met up with my mom, who was living in a different part of California than we were at the time. But yeah, that was like a meetup at a random park somewhere like near Sacramento, California.
There you go.
Yeah.
Go back in time for me. So you were born and raised in Palo Alto, correct? Where do you fit amongst is it 4 siblings total? 3 brothers, 1 sister?
Yeah.
Where are you are you in the middle, oldest, youngest?
I'm the oldest of the siblings. So I have 2 younger brothers and a younger sister. And yeah, although I don't look like it, most people look at photos of us, and besides that photo, because my youngest brother Julian in that photo doesn't have facial hair, but nowadays if you see us all lined up, people say, "Are you the youngest?" And I go, "Nope, I'm the oldest by like 4 years."
This one's you, right?
That's me. Yeah.
Sorry, in this picture, he looks like the oldest. I would have guessed you were the middle, and he is definitely the youngest, mainly because of the facial hair, like you said.
Yeah, and he looked like the youngest. There is the youngest, technically. But now he has facial hair, and both of my brothers have like fuller beards than I can ever accomplish. Like I've literally, to the extent that I've thought about, like, is there something cream I could put on my face, or like hair growth thing? And and I remember wanting desperately to have like a beard when I was in high school. Like my friends were starting to grow facial hair at that time, and I just couldn't. And to this day, it's like a mustache and patches that I can get. So I do the mustache thing. So yeah.
Yeah, there's been a running... Well, it hasn't been said in a while, but there's sort of a joke in my family that maybe I was adopted because all my siblings had blonde hair. I was the only one with dark brown hair. And then at 24, 25 years old, I started balding fast. I went from having a thick head of hair, and it just got thinner by the day. And so then the joke sort of resurfaced because it's like, oh, all the other 4 siblings, they're just thriving with their blonde hair.
Yeah.
And what's happening to David over there? So
wow.
I don't know. Maybe I was adopted. Probably not, but...
That's funny.
What was early life like in terms of what do you remember, and what was sort of any pivotal moments that come to mind that happened in childhood that may have had a ripple effect as to who you became today?
Sheesh, that's deep. What? I mean, there were a lot of things. My parents didn't have they didn't have the best relationship. Looking back at it now, knowing what a healthy relationship looks like or feels like, I wouldn't say they had the best relationship, but they loved each other and they found a way to make it work for a long time. And I think growing up, there were dysfunctional patterns that I picked up and like Mexican people. I mean, I can't speak I can't speak generally because this is just my experience with my Mexican relatives and family members, but they were always just so like feisty and aggressive, like hyper aggressive people, to the fact where I feel like at every family gathering that had my dad's family, which was the Mexican side, present, it was like one of his brothers and a sister getting in a physical confrontation or something of the sort, or some type of arguing, fighting. Like there's a lot of, in Mexican culture, and I've seen it in Mexico as well, this like family, like almost like friendly-ish banter that happens, where it's like they pick at each other constantly. And so I feel like that is something that I'm now trying to peel back the layers and figure out why kind of I have that part of me too. And my dad's very much like that too. Like the way he shows love is usually like, hey, like make sure clean your truck. It looks like shit,
Yeah.
Instead of, like, I don't, for what, just like, hey, how you doing? How's everything going? How's the wife? I miss you. It's just, oh, wow. The first thing I hear is usually something that I have to do, like a task, So I would say that that dynamic growing up I thought was normal isn't like very normal now, or helpful, or, productive. So, other than that, I can't really think of specific memories that I had like early on that changed the trajectory, other than obviously meeting my mentor when I was younger. And my dad had a lot of situations because he worked for the FBI in San Francisco that put him in the hospital, and he would go undercover a lot. So growing up, I think the first memory I have of him getting in bad shape from a job or from any kind of case that he was working on was he was like thrown out of a moving car.
Oh, geez.
When I was 13 years old. I remember being at, it wasn't Blockbuster, it was something similar to that. Another
Hollywood Video?
Hollywood Video, I think. And it was we were gonna rent it was the first Halo that came out for Xbox. And my father was, we didn't have a whole lot of money growing up, so he was very much either wait till it's on sale or you wait till it like gets a little cheaper in some way for whatever reason, or wait till you can rent it from the DVD store, because they would have a video game section.
Yep.
So it's so funny. I remember this so clear. I was with my mom and my two friends. She took us to Hollywood Video to get Halo so I could play it at home, because I had a console, but I didn't have that game. And I was like, we were in the checkout line, and we got the call, and my mom looked so shocked, and I was like, what's going on, Mom? And she said that, oh, your dad got pushed out of a moving car. We got to go to the hospital now. So we had a few situations like that growing up between probably the age of 12, or me being 12 years old, to like 17 years old, where he would be undercover and just something would, I don't know if it was bad luck or what, but something would happen.
What do you recall as a kid what went through your head if he came home with it? Like, let's just stick with that specific incident. How did that impact you, in the sense of like, would you be worried about him? Were you curious? Like, Dad, what?
Always.
Tell me the story. What went down on the case today? How did you react to this news?
I had a part of me that because my friends all looked up to my dad, and they thought he was like he had obviously a cool job to young kids, or adolescents. It's in your adolescence, you're looking to parents to see who you want to be like, especially your friends' parents. What jobs do they have? What kind of houses do they have? And they all looked at mine and thought and would tell me, your dad's so cool. Your dad has such a cool job. He has cool stories. But I never saw it that way. For some reason, I never cared to ask. Maybe because I was so worried about him and I didn't like it anyway. I didn't like hearing about the things that he had to go through. And I knew it was risky, and I knew how my mom felt about it too. And that kind of played a role in their marriage. That I downloaded those emotions and those feelings. So I never cared. I didn't want to know the details. I just didn't really care that he did it, So I was just I always remember thinking, because he would sometimes be gone for 8, 12, 14, 16 hours undercover doing something, and I would not see him maybe for a couple days, because I would be out with my friends or something, or spending the night somewhere, and he would get home late or whatever. So that it for me, I was always thinking, like, hope dad's okay. I was always worried about him.
Were you guys close during that, when you were that age?
Yeah, I mean, my mom always characterized me as like a daddy's boy, always at his hip. But I also wanted, I think there was a part of me that wanted him obviously around. As a kid, you want your dad around, and so his job always forced him to be away from us for long periods of time, and especially when the workload got a little heavier. So yeah, I think that while we did have a good relationship when he was around, he wasn't always around. So it felt almost like a friend you want to be around that just could never hang out. Yeah.
Did you ever want to go down that path yourself? I know we touched on it briefly in your intro, and it was more towards law enforcement, but did you ever consider the FBI or one of those agencies?
Yeah, so I did the junior police academy when I was 17, turning 18. Technically, you age out, and you're no longer allowed to do the junior version of the police academy if you're over 18. Because you're an adult, obviously. So I did it when it was junior or senior year. I was 17, 16, just turning 17, or 17 turning 18, something of the sort. And it was 12 weeks basically of every Sunday or every weekend I would go to, because you're obviously a young kid, you're not doing a real academy where you're like sleeping there, with other people. But I would get taken there, or I would drive there myself, and it was held at some like, I want to say, a college campus that was nearby. I forget which one. And my dad basically kind of elected me to do something like that, or pushed me to do that. And I always grew up with his voice in my head telling me that this is what he wanted me to do, because it was something he could see me being good at. And so I started to become good at the thing that he wanted me to be good at, which is, from a young age, he would teach me how to identify if someone's lying. Like there's no way, obviously, 100% to know when someone's lying or not versus being on a lie detector. But there's tells and gives that law enforcement look for, right, when someone's being dishonest. And so I remember learning that from a young age. I remember learning, all of the makes and models of cars, because he would always like train me to like look and identify other cars and make sure, glance at license plates if I ever needed to. So there was like little things he trained me to do when I was younger. And that included, hey, you should get some combat training, which is where I even started doing jiu-jitsu and MMA in the first place. So I think that's where all of that came about. And all because he was like, you're going to be he looked at us 3 kids, and he already knew from a young age like what he wanted us to do. And we just said, okay, sure. I guess we'll start like molding our lives to be like that, you know?
Yeah.
So
What's one of those tells to see that might be a sign that someone could be lying to you?
he used to say, and I don't know how accurate it is nowadays. I'm sure there's emerging evidence for anything. I mean, people's tells are all very unique to themselves, but lack of eye contact is obviously a very clear one, is when people don't want to make eye contact with you when they feel like they're being dishonest because it's a guilt, right? It's a guilt response that is, if I'm making very avid or constant eye contact with them, that's a form of trust, right? So lack of eye contact, it's also like eye shifting. He used to say like people whose eyes shift to the left more often than not, and this was based on research 15 years ago maybe, when he was in law enforcement, that eyes shifting to the left usually, for whatever reason, I guess based on the research that he was trained with, meant that someone could be lying or being dishonest about details of whatever they're talking about. And it was like fidgets, some other things too. It had a lot to do with like body language.
Yeah.
But I remember just the lack of eye contact and the shifting eyes to the left was like something that I always looked for, like in my friends, which even, which is weird for a 13-year-old kid to be looking at his 13-year-old friends and being like, are they
Like,
lying to me right now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a podcast I've been wanting to watch for about a month now, and I just haven't got to it yet because it's 2 hours long.
Mm-hmm.
And it's one of those episodes where I think I'm going to sit down and be taking like copious amount of notes, and it's sort of on this subject. It's an ex-CIA agent, and it's essentially how to read people. But part of his pitch somewhere in that 2 hours is they have a section where they touch on detecting lies, and just from I don't think that's something I necessarily need. I find people fascinating, and that's why you and me are probably sitting here right now.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever caught someone in a lie, and maybe it's the most there's no impact at all. Maybe it's something small, but have you ever got someone, you say, oh, David, where'd you come from right before this? And I say, the gym. And again, like it's it doesn't matter if I was coming from a strip club instead or wherever. Have you ever caught someone where you're like, I think they're lying to me? And what's your reaction in that moment typically?
I think I've caught a lot of people lying in my life. I've confronted a lot of my friends about it early on, and that didn't go over well, especially when I didn't know as a kid, you don't know how to necessarily always control your emotions and how you say things to people. You just say things.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Yeah. So that I don't always think I had the best experiences telling people they lied to me versus asking, As a kid, I was like, you just lied to me, didn't you? You lied to me about that. And that's the way I approached it. Then as I got older, I started to ask, like, especially more often than not, it was with people you're close with, like your brothers, and specifically my brothers, girlfriends that I had. It was always something, where I started to ask. But also, and this is the dysfunctional part, is that in a professional environment, you're collecting, in addition to possibly thinking someone's being dishonest with you, you're collecting evidence, right? So you're not just going to, like, if you're interviewing someone for a case, and this is what my dad would do a lot, they would just take notes and write things down or spectate, right? And just essentially have these observations that might have been a dishonest encounter. Where in relationships with girlfriends, what became dysfunctional was me wanting to gather evidence. Was almost, you can't treat a relationship like a FBI case. So that's where I had to start to differentiate, like, okay, I can't go into my relationships thinking that someone is being dishonest because of these tells that I got, and then trying to prove it by collecting data in that way. So that's where, growing up, I had to approach it a little differently versus calling someone out for lying. It's, hey, you can tell me anything, right? Or, coming across as someone who you would want to be honest with. Like, it's starting to think, is it something about me, So that's I think early on where I had to like have a mind shift change of, okay, yes, I might have called these people out early on in my life for lying, or if I thought they were lying or figured out. And it's never good when you know or think someone is lying, you find out, because in high school or whatever, you're hearing a lot of things from friends or whatever, and then you're asking someone, hey, did so-and-so said this, did you do that? And they don't give you an honest truth, and then you figure out from other people that it actually did happen in that sort of circumstance. Then I start to prove to myself, oh wow, a lot of people lie to me, or a lot of people just lie in general. So that's not also, I think that's what, law enforcement agents or FBI agents, CIA, whatever it is, I think you start to have a lot of distrust with just humanity in general, which taints their way of looking at things. Yeah. I noticed that with my dad a lot. So as I got older, didn't want to be like that, because people lie, and that's just or people are dishonest because they don't feel safe most of the time. And or they're guilty. They feel like they did the wrong thing, and they don't want to tell other people they did the wrong thing, which is totally fine. So I didn't start to. I saw it differently as I got older.
There's in the 2.5 years that I've been doing this, there's only 2 episodes that I haven't released, and one of them, I don't want to give out any information to protect his identity, but the entire 90 minutes, I just felt like this is 90% lies. So maybe he would say something like, I hosted a podcast for 6 months.
Yeah.
I would believe that. But then he would go on this trail of stories that just, it seemed off. And so he leaves. And before I release the episode, as I'm debating if I'm going to release the episode, I hit up a very trusted friend of mine and said, hey, I'm going to send you this unreleased episode. I'm not going to tell you anything about it. Would you do me a favor in the next 7 days, listen to it start to finish, and call me back with your honest feedback? And he said, sure, why not?
Yeah.
3 or 4 days later, he calls me back, and he says, David, this guy's a liar. Like, wow. I did not believe almost anything that he said. And it was almost like, when reflecting on it, like, did he just want to say things that he thought maybe the audience would like, or that made him sound cool or look cool? But I was trying to put myself in his shoes and think, why would I go on someone's podcast and misrepresent who I am?
Yeah.
And I am not an FBI agent, but there's just something in my gut that I think I was probably somewhat accurate on.
Yeah.
And what was interesting was I called him a couple days later, and I said, hey, just wanted to give you a heads up that I re-listened to all of my episodes start to finish before they go live, and I made myself a promise at the beginning of this thing that if I was not ecstatic about one, I wasn't going to release it. I want great episodes out there. And I said, as I listened to ours, I don't know if it was me that was off or you that was off, or maybe we were both off. But I just wanted to call and thank you for your time and let you know that the episode is not going to be released. And he said, okay, great. Anything else? And I said, no. And he said, okay, bye, click. And after that phone call, I almost thought, did he almost maybe know that, like, he got caught?
Yeah.
I don't know. What's your take on this? I know that's very limited information.
No. I think it's enough information. I think that just hearing that, even if I was telling, let's say this person was telling 100% the truth about everything, and it just, for some reason, and again, I'm giving him a benefit of the doubt because I don't know him, that if you get a call from someone and they're telling you that they're not going to move forward with releasing an episode that you maybe spent 90 minutes recording, I think my natural reaction, internal, whether I maybe called attention to it or not, would be like to be annoyed. Maybe.
Sure.
That's what that would sound like to me, unless the former, which is he was lying about everything and figured out that you figured it out or suspected, and then that would make your response obviously accurate, which is, oh, he just caught me and I don't want to continue talking to someone who like maybe caught me in a bunch of lies. So either one, I think either way, getting a follow-up call with maybe slightly, not pleasant news about something is I don't know what else he would probably say in that circumstance. Or I guess, if you called me after this and 3 days after this and said, hey, like, I'm not going to release the episode, I'd probably ask why. That'd be like a totally plausible thing to ask. Oh,
Yeah.
like, what about it did you feel was off? I'd ask it maybe a little bit deeper, but that's me being curious. So maybe someone who's like lying about something obviously doesn't care to ask because he's already knows that it's 100% baloney.
I'm glad he didn't ask.
Yeah.
I don't know what I would have said.
Yeah, you're like, I didn't get that far
Yeah.
in my preparation for this phone call.
And you're right. He on your first scenario that he could have been annoyed because he did take the effort to drive out here, spend 90 minutes with me, drive back to wherever it is in Austin that he lives. And it was a hard phone call to make, but that's part of the reason, like with you, I have those introductory phone calls with people because I helped like that. That has helped me so much, already predetermined. I don't know what you and me are exactly going to talk about today, but I'm 99% confident it's going to be great and I'm going to release it.
Did you have that phone call like process or method with him?
I did.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And it just you didn't maybe hear anything or find anything out within that phone call that would have led you to believe that something was off with him?
Not to my memory.
Okay.
I don't recall one way. I did not hang up that first phone call with any reservations. I wanted to move forward.
Okay.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe it's because I kept it surface level.
Yeah.
I do try to go a little bit deeper into the phone calls now, and I think I even asked you, like,
I was going to say,
what are
our
some
phone call
things
was,
we're going to talk about. And I think I'm just getting better at asking better questions on that call. And if I'm seeing that the responses are good, I'm like, all right, we're going to be fine. Come on over. Let's record.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. I mean, I didn't even think about having when I was doing a podcast, doing some type of phone call prior. It was very like, hey, inviting you to the podcast, fill out this form, see you then if you accept. But that makes sense. We were doing it all digital too, so I didn't have to worry about, people taking too much time out of their schedule. They just hop on a computer and boom, they're in Zoom. So yeah, I mean, that's smart that you do that now thinking about it.
Have you, in going back to something you said earlier, have you done anything proactive to help people in your life be honest with you? Or even just to show maybe a better way of saying that is just to build, how do you build trust with clients, your girlfriend and your customers at the coffee truck? How do you build that trust so that people do, they know you're a good guy and I can share personal things with you? Yeah.
I would say more recently, this is within the last 1.5 to 2 years, I focus 100%. And if I'm ever not doing it, I try to be a great husband every single day, but if I'm ever not making eye contact with my wife, it's specifically because I'm annoyed with her, and that's an easy way for her to be more agitated with me is to talk to her without looking at her. So I would say that the reverse, that if I ever want someone to feel heard, seen, or safe, I'm making eye contact with them. It's a body language thing too. I've never had a problem with having in that way body language that would make people feel like I'm reserved or don't want to listen to them. I also found a couple of years ago, I've been trying to swear less and less the last couple of years. That's another thing growing up in the Mexican culture is they swear in 2 languages constantly. So, I grew up with a lot of that in my house, and it was never not okay to swear. Like you shouldn't swear if I ever swore to my dad, I'd get my butt kicked. But at the same time, if I swore in front of him to other people, it was totally fine. So I grew up swearing a lot in my house, kind of here and there, just like letting it out, like letting it, if I'm playing a video game and I messed up or something in that, situation, and then to my friends. So when I would have conversations as a trainer before a couple years ago, when I would intentionally swear up front, knowing that also in a way, I don't know how you feel about it. Some people obviously, if they don't like hearing swear words, maybe they kind of retract a little bit. But I knew from personal experience, if I swear in front of people, not to them, but just in general, that their guards came down. I don't know what it was, but I could just tell that me being someone who was better with interpersonal skills, realized from a younger age that if I didn't swear or did swear in front of people that I maybe wanted to make an impression on, and just a casual like shit or something, whatever it is, right? It's not something like derogatory, but that their guards came down and they were like, for some reason I saw the way that they were with me after that, and it was a little different. Like, oh, this is a person. Oh, okay, he's swearing like it's a regular guy, you know? So I don't know what it was about that, but I noticed that early on compared to a couple years ago when I wanted to stop swearing. I had to find a new way to kind of break through that with a lot of people. And my way was just finding a way that wasn't very odd to tell something about me that was maybe like a little bit deeper than surface level. So, you know, an example at the truck is someone came up to me the other day and randomly started to share with me like a little bit more about their story. He drove here from Arizona or New Mexico, and again, some people are just open with strangers, and this person was very much like that. And I can only assume it's because of, one, my body language, and also I ask people how they're doing, and I genuinely ask them how they're doing versus, how you doing today? It's like, hey, how's it going? After I've started to make their coffee, if I'm waiting for like anything to be made, you know, I'll turn around and have a conversation with them. And this person let me know that he drove here from New Mexico or Arizona, like I mentioned, and that when I asked him what brought them here, he said, I used to do a lot of cocaine and a lot of drugs, and I just wanted to get away from my dealer and people that I could easily access that from. So I'm here, I know no one, and I just want to start over. And that was obviously something very personal. So I find a way to either match that in some way, not to the same degree maybe, but I'll start talking about a personal experience that I have. Where before maybe I didn't really do that as much because I didn't feel comfortable, but the swearing was my way to just like let them in.
Yeah.
You know, so I'm finding new ways all the time to have people feel like they can trust me enough to tell me something if they need to, if they want to have a good conversation with me versus, oh, what do you do for a living? Oh, you're a trainer? Oh yeah, I've been working on, you know, I have 1,000 of those conversations a day.
Yep.
So I try to have deeper conversations, and that gets tricky, you know.
About a year ago, I went to an event called the Internet Marketing Party,
Mm-hmm.
and you can assume by the name who's people that are marketing things on the internet go to this event. And the very first time I went, I show up, and I am so uncomfortable in large groups of people.
Mm-hmm.
It's not my thing.
Yeah.
And so I walk in, I don't know anybody except the guy that's putting on the event, and so I see a circle of about 8 dudes that are talking, and so I thought, I'm just gonna go try to squeeze my way in there. So I go over, get in the circle. They made some room for me. And once one of the guys finishes talking about whatever he's talking about, one of the other guys in the circle looks at me and he says, you, what's your name? What's your superpower? And I said, my name's David.
Mm-hmm.
I thought about it for a second and I said, I have the ability, if I can sit down with someone for long enough, to get them to tell me things they did not expect to tell me, or sometimes even things that they don't want to tell me, pretty consistently.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the other guys in the circle looks at me and he says, are you serious? And I said, yeah. And he goes, shit, I'm out of here. And he turns around and walks away. And at first I thought it was going to be a bit where then he turns around again, rejoins the circle.
Yeah.
Yeah. He left the event.
Oh, wow.
I was going to try to find him later on that night to be like, hey, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to make you uncomfortable. But since you sort of opened the can of worms already, like, what about that statement made you uncomfortable? So that I stayed in that circle for maybe 15, 20 minutes. The venue wasn't that big. I did a full lap. Couldn't find him anywhere. I've always wondered to this day, what is going on with that guy's past?
Yeah. That he's like, I'm not going near this guy. If it's even remotely true and he can bring out this lie, I'm good. Yeah. Like, no one's finding that body, you know? or whatever.
Yeah. The cursing thing is interesting. I might try that tonight at the dinner I mentioned I'm going to. There's going to be about 50 people there, and I anticipate I'm not going to know anyone but the 2 people hosting the event. So I might play around with that a little bit.
Yeah, I don't know what it was, but a soft-spoken shit or something, like I said, casually along those lines. I saw people's body language change. Their shoulders fell. You can tell when people are more open to the idea of actually getting to know you as a person versus getting through that weird foam level layer of like, how far does this go?
Yeah.
Which I despise. I can't handle it. Like, now that I'm in my 30s, and my wife could tell you and vouch for me that if it's too much of that for too long, I can't even, I literally disengage. And then my wife has to take over, and she gets so upset. And we have a huge conversation about it after the fact. Why'd you stop talking? And I can't, I just run out. I literally run out of words. I think I like to align with this one, and I want to change this about myself, but because I think it's a faulty thing to have or a characteristic about me. But I heard a long time ago that introverts, from someone who was, describing the differences between introverts and extroverts, and I would always consider myself an introvert just with extrovert career paths, is you go out into the world as an introvert and you only have so many coins, and every situation, circumstance, experience with another person, conversation you spend a coin on every one of these. Until at the end of the day, you might have ended up with 0 coins. You have no more coins. So that's your energy source. It's gone. Versus an extrovert, which starts with 0 coins, and every situation, conversation, experience that they have with other people in that daytime or in that wherever they are, they accumulate a coin from everyone until they end up with a bunch of coins. So when I heard that, I aligned with it so well because I would feel so drained at the end of the day, because my career path was have a bunch of conversations, have 12 conversations with 12 people you're training, or a class of 30 people, and have these mini bit conversations with 15 of them on the way out.
Yeah.
And I would just be so spent and exhausted I couldn't even have a conversation with my wife. And she's like, what's going on? And then when I heard that, I was like, I couldn't help but say, that's me. That's what I feel like, is I'm spending these coins on these people. I have no idea how I'm doing it, but I'm giving them a coin. And by the end of the day, I have no more coins for even the people that I want to reserve coins for, that I love and I cherish and I want to have conversations with. So that was always interesting to me. And I think I'm getting better, or I've gotten better at figuring out that the way that I spend these coins is through like surface level conversations. They just deteriorate me. They just bleed me dry from all the energy that I have, versus like this charges me up. Something like this, something where I get to know someone, I get to walk away from something with, wow, that was interesting that I figured that out. That was cool. These little things because I have a great memory and I always remember everything about every conversation I've ever had. And when it's all surface level, like my wife has a lot of these in a daytime and she's really good at it, I run out.
So let me ask you this. Let's say you go to this, let's say hypothetically you were going to go to this dinner with me tonight. The format of the dinner, it's an event here in Austin, Texas called Open Spaces. It's a no drugs, no alcohol dinner. They do that intentionally. They're looking to help other humans in the city form connections with other good human beings. Typically the first 30 minutes, there's no agenda. They have a bunch of mocktails, you sign in, you get a name tag. Then they break everyone up into small groups of anywhere from like 3 to 6 people, and they put some question cards in the middle of each group that are deeper than, let's talk about the weather.
Yeah.
And then typically they have a live presentation of sorts where someone will give a 15 to 20 minute story about something that happened in their life, what happened, how they overcame it, and how they're doing today. Then it gets opened up to the audience to do some Q&A to the guest speaker, and then we all have dinner together. For that first 30 minutes where it's just open conversation, if you were to show up at this dinner tonight, you scan a room of people, Who do you approach? What do you talk to them about?
I would these are I'm so bad in these situations.
Sorry.
No, it's totally fine. And this is where my wife excels. She's a matchmaker. Like she
Oh, really?
finds love for other people. And you can't do that job if you can't do this situation you're describing right now. Because
Right.
she will constantly go to events that I've been with her to also just to try to spend more time with her, which I realize isn't spending time with her because she's like headhunting.
She's working.
She's working.
Yeah.
And so she's so good at finding something random to start a conversation. I will also say that, and this, hopefully this doesn't come off as something, off the reservation, but I also think it's the fact that she's a woman and it's inviting for her to either approach a male or a female with something that they respond. Both a woman feels connected to her because she's a woman, and it's not a threat to her, right? Like versus a male who's approaching a woman, and a female approaching a male is also not threatening because men feel inclined more often than not to talk to women. And so they would love a woman to approach them about something. And that's the way that I've kind of seen the dynamic when I see her do this in person. And whenever I've been in situations like this, I'll say from experience, from being in something like that, I have a really challenging time starting usually I honestly, and this is something I can totally admit and not feel bad about, because it's the God honest truth, is that I will wait for someone to make the first movement. Because I suck so bad at it. I'm not good.
That was very honest. I appreciate that.
That's just how my brain just works like that. Is if someone can just say something to me, I can carry something. I've always been the same way with my brother. We have this comedic style that like we work off each other very well, and people always, or my wife and other people will tell me, God, you and your brother are so funny when you're with each other. And it's not that she's telling me I'm less funny without him. It's that I need like this back and forth thing to and then I'm good. And then I can keep moving. I can keep moving this or push this rock up this hill per se. But I have a hard time like flinting the rock or like getting the fire to spark or started. And I never had to do that because as a personal trainer, people are approaching me. Are you a personal trainer? I saw you training that person, or they're taking my class. Hey, I was wondering if you do, you also do this, or hey, my knee's been a little wonky. I've never had to start a conversation really, other than on the floor, which is that's all my domain. They're in my domain, which is the gym. So, long story short, I would, if I went to this dinner in theory tonight with you, I would, we're together. So that immediately makes it easier when you come with another person to something to start conversations with other people. That for me, I can do.
Yeah.
But when I'm by myself, I think it's it's inspiring that you're doing that because it's such a hard thing. Like I said, for me and for a lot of people I know to go somewhere by themselves and try to be that person to start a conversation. I would honestly look into something. I'd probably prepare myself by like honestly thinking of like 10, it's almost like 21 questions.
Yep.
Having 10 things in my head that I could randomly ask someone right off the bat that's not weird. And I would just keep those locked and loaded, knowing I'm going into this situation and just to start a conversation.
Yeah. It's funny you bring up your, women approaching people versus men, because if you scroll through the episodes of this podcast, it's predominantly male guests. And that's been a very big frustration for me. I don't do like a 50-50 thing where if I invite 3 dudes on, I'd make sure to invite 3 ladies next.
Yeah.
But I would say 85% of the women that I've invited on the show haven't even responded to the messages. And 2 guests before you, he said, why don't you, do you have a good lady friend in your life? And I said, I do. And he says, why don't you go back through all those unanswered messages and find the top 5 women that you want to talk to for whatever reason, give their Instagram handles and a prepared message to your friend and have her reach out on your behalf. I bet you at least 3 or 4 of them will respond.
Yeah.
And so I floated the idea past her, and she's game. And so we're going to test it out here in a week or 2 after I see who it is I want to reach out to through her. But I'm very curious to see if the response rate just goes like this. Because even my sister told me, you're an almost 6 foot, 220 pound, bearded, bald dude inviting women over to your home.
Yeah.
That's very intimidating.
I was just going to say.
That's very intimidating.
In this day and age, I mean, even 50 years ago, it can be potentially, it's threatening, it's scary. They don't know, it's a stranger, so yeah, I would say that is definitely the best way to go about it. And I can speak to experience from overhearing and seeing how my wife even approaches it, because her way of doing matchmaking is clients will hire her specifically to find them dates, obviously. And what I've realized is that all they're getting is basically an experienced lady friend that is in the community that can talk on their behalf. That's literally all it is. It's what you're describing, obviously, but in an effort to get a date versus someone on a podcast.
Yes.
That's exactly what it is. They'll hire her for however much money they're willing to spend for however many dates that they want to acquire, and she will just get on social media, reach out to ladies who are in the community that she sees that fit the profile, and they feel like she's a trustworthy person. One, because the prerequisite is because she's, one, a female, and 2, they obviously look over her profile. She has a husband. She's a normal looking person. Cool. Doesn't look like a fake account or something that's strange. And it's not also from a business, which is also another thing that can be off-putting. So they connect with her, and then it becomes almost like you're at a get-together and your friend introduces you to another friend. That's the way that I see it. That's how I see these relationships starting. And now she just got this person a date a week ago, and this was one of her latest clients, and it happened within a couple months. And it's literally as easy as that. Is, hey, I want to hire you. I know these people that I want to go on dates with, but I want to hire you to approach them for me. And that's how this individual went about it. She didn't even really need to go searching. He had kind of his own database based on who he's met in the community, but he just hasn't approached these people. And so he paid her to approach these people, and it worked out because it feels like you have this intermediate person that's introducing you to someone that they deem as trustworthy.
Yeah.
So I think it'll definitely work for you,
Your wife's job is really interesting because one of my 2 workout buddies, he is one of the best human beings I know. And one of the things that I think why we gravitated towards each other is because we're both able to spot weaknesses in each other and call each other out on them in a really loving way.
Yeah.
So he has me on a challenge right now to not watch any porn. And so, that's something he spotted in me, where he was like, why don't you do this thing and just see if it has an effect on your podcast, your sleep, your workouts, your overall happiness. Yeah. And so there's a lady at the gym who I would guess is probably pretty close to his age. And he thinks she's the most beautiful lady he's ever seen. And I've told him like 10 times, I'm like, just go ask her for coffee. Look, there she is. Just go ask her real quick. And he's like, no, I can't. She's going to say no. Or he might say like, I can't. Someone that beautiful already has a boyfriend already. I'm like, worst case scenario, she says no. Best case scenario, she says yes. And you're going to be so freaking happy that you went and did that. But when you were talking about your wife's work, it almost made me wonder, if there must be a pretty big population of humans, it sounds like probably mostly guys are her clients, who they just can't take that first step for themselves, whether it's out of fear or he said, like, you know, she's out of my league. And I'm like, dude, you're a handsome man. You're kind, you're responsible, you're self-aware. You're getting to know who you are more and more every day. There are so many qualities that you bring to the table that, not to dox other dudes, but like not other guys might not. And so maybe you think she's out of your league looks wise, but when you look at your character, like, dude, you're a rock star. Go ask her for coffee already.
Yeah. It's, I mean, you know, I just said I wouldn't go to have a success at a dinner where I'm not even trying to pick up anyone. I have a wife. Let alone someone who I would want to potentially, you know, have a relationship with or ask on a date. I was never that guy. I met my wife because she took my class.
There you go.
And that's what I'm saying is it's been an easy entry point for me. I didn't realize it actually has been kind of a hindrance in that way, because when I started to get out of or wanted to meet more clients or do things in business, which means you have to go put your neck on the line or you have to approach other people, and do sales more conventionally for a business, which I had to do when I first got here to Texas. I realized I had crutches on my whole life because I worked in a gym and people came to me. People asked me questions. I was the expert. So, I can't imagine like being in this day and age trying to find a woman like your friend and having to approach women in a gym setting or a library or a cafe and whatnot. That is it's a scary thing, you know. And but I think the more you do it, the easier it becomes. And that's what I realized even about sales when I first started to do sales, that it was helping me with confidence to talk to people because I was less and less afraid of being rejected or getting an answer that I didn't enjoy.
Yeah.
You know, like you said, it's like, what's the worst that can happen? They're going to say no, as long as you don't let it eat you up at night.
Yeah.
Which some people do. They go to sleep with that and they're like, oh my God, it's something about me. It's like, I can't change it. And everyone thinks that about me. They take one experience and they amplify it. So
I'm going to do a small subject change because I didn't want to pass over it. Michael Basil? Basil.
Yeah.
Michael Basil. How did you and Michael meet?
Basil was I still is a conditioning coach. I met him from a friend of mine, this guy Angelo. So I first got into jiu-jitsu when I was 16, and it was in an effort, like I mentioned, to have like combat training for potentially a law enforcement career path. And 3 years into it, my jiu-jitsu, the conventional name is I'm blanking out on it. I forget what it's called in jiu-jitsu, but it's basically a jiu-jitsu coach or trainer. I had a couple of them. This one guy, Eugene, was an ex-UFC fighter, and the jiu-jitsu coach was from Brazil, and he got deported. He was here illegally. So I found myself without a coach, and I didn't really like the kids that I was rolling with. They call it rolling, like when you're doing jiu-jitsu. And so I was like, oh, what other gyms are there? And my friend Angelo was telling me that he would gym hop. He would do jiu-jitsu at this gym that I went to with him in East Palo Alto. And then there was another gym called Undisputed Boxing Gym that taught striking, obviously, more kickboxing and such, and I lacked that. And I only, up until that point, rolled on mats and I was only proficient in the 3 years that I did it for in ground tactics. Had no striking whatsoever. If I was ever standing up with someone, I immediately took them down to the floor because I was kind of not really. It was foreign to me. What could even happen here? Was this a good punch? And what am I even doing? I'd rather take them down and do some type of submission. So I went with my friend Angelo, and he said, yeah, I know this guy, Michael Basil. He's a great coach. He's been training me for a while. Let's go to his conditioning class. So I went, got my ass beat, forgive my speech, and I had a great experience with him, and he gave me some pointers along the way, and it was very encouraging, even though I walked out of there with a black eye. And it's just something about him. he was just a very inspiring person to talk to. And he talked to you. I was, I think 18 or 19 when I met him. He was in his 40s, and he talked to me like he was the first person that was that much older than me that talked to me like I was his age, like with the same amount of respect. And I could just, it's the type of care that I've worked on for the last 15 years, or 12 years, since 13, 14 years since meeting him, have tried to develop more and more of. Whenever I think about how I'm coming off to someone, I consider kind of how he spoke to me and how he made me feel as a younger person, because I think it's like age is a disqualifier for a lot of people. Oh, you meet someone who's 17, oh, they don't know shit. But at the same time, the way you treat someone at that age could be it could be the catalyst that sends him off into a different trajectory, like it did for me.
Yeah.
So he, he was an inspiring trainer. He was great at what he did. He was, you don't get to self-label mentor, but he immediately became my mentor. I just thought of no one else that could help me, one, learn a little bit more. Like I had a good moral compass, but I feel like because my dad was in the FBI and there was a lot of things that just I didn't enjoy about that line of work that maybe tainted the way he saw life and how he saw people. Basil was the complete opposite. Was this older gentleman, took care of people, was a trainer, a fight coach, a boxing coach, and he lived life like very different, than my dad did. So he was another male figure that was older that I looked up to, and became kind of a father figure in some ways because my dad, like I said, was not around all the time. So yeah, it was something, he trained me every day for free. I didn't have the funds to be able to pay for a membership or pay for a trainer, but he didn't care. And that was another thing, that as a kid, when someone gives you without expecting anything in return, you feel like indebted to them. And that's kind of the relationship that it grew into, was just this person that like looked out for me, wanted nothing but to set me on a path for, because he knew that I had a lot of potential, and looked out for me. When you have a coach that's looking out for you, whether it's on the field, on the court, or in a boxing ring, it's very intimate. It's personal. They have your back. They're looking out to make sure that you don't get hurt. So it was kind of easy to connect to him in that way.
And at what point, since you were on the trajectory to go into law enforcement,
Mm-hmm.
at what point did you decide that was not the route for you?
It probably, it was mostly Basil's fault.
Putting Basil on blast today.
I kind of talk crap to him to this day, and he'll randomly call me and be like, remember when you wanted to be an FBI agent? Or because I was going to go to law school. So there's two ways you apply to the FBI, usually. You either have it's easier to, and these are the two main ways. You can obviously do it any other way, but you either apply with a law degree, meaning you go to law school, and then after law school you apply to the FBI. Or you have an accounting degree and you apply to the FBI. Those are the two ways that I was trained to get into the FBI, because they don't take, obviously, everyone. So I chose that because I was like, I'm not great with numbers. Accounting seemed boring. I didn't want to do it. So I was like, okay, I'm good at rhetoric. I love arguing with people. But, that's the way I saw it anyway. I was like, I'm pretty good in arguments, and the whole, my dad trained me that way to have like to look at rhetoric in a different way and prove your point by kind of disproving your point. I love that part of it. So law school was the way that I was going to do it. And Basil used to, he would call me from time to time, within the last 5 years and just randomly be like, yeah, remember when you were going to go to law school and you were going to be an FBI agent? And just kind of poke fun at me. And I was like, yeah, you kind of fucked that up. Yeah, without him, I wouldn't have thought that life would even be remotely attractive. Like being a trainer or being in a gym all day. I knew what I wanted from it, which is career-wise, I wanted to have combat skills to be able to apply to the FBI, because you know, when you go to Virginia, which is where they have their, you know, whatever their main like training headquarters, you are doing like a lot of combat training, and you're basically there for like between I want to say anywhere between like 3 to 6 months, and you're if you get in, and you're going through their like academy process. And so that's what I wanted from jiu-jitsu, boxing, any of that. Was I just want to learn how to protect myself. I want to be good in close combat, have good reactions, so that I don't have to think about things anymore. It's involuntary response. And then I had a superficial goal as well when I was 16, which is I just want to be ripped. You know, I want to look good so I can get a girlfriend or something. And I was probably one of the least in shape people in my whole like friend group at the time, because, you know, my dad had just this obviously Mexican food, Mexican culture. We have a ton of tortillas, a bunch of carbohydrates, and we never have vegetables.
Delicious.
Other than corn, you know? So we were fat little kids, but me, my brothers and I. So I was like, I just want to get in shape and I want to learn this combat thing. And he basically gave me a clear representation of what it looks like to actually love your job, which I never really saw my dad look full of joy, you know? He will always look slightly aggravated, irritated, unless he was on the couch after a long day and like watching a television show and just decompressing with my mom. His day-to-day just looked so stressful. And when I saw Basil, he was happy, was in the gym. Like, you would get aggravated sometimes, like a coach does with their fighters or with their athletes, and kind of yell and get that like rugged coach kind of feel. But at the same time, he was laughing and with all of us and having a great time. And so that's was attractive to me. So by the end of college, I, you know, looked at my dad and I was just told him straight out, I think I want to be a trainer. I don't want to go to law school, and I don't think be a cop or go into law enforcement or be an agent of any sort. And we got in a big argument, you know, that lasted probably up to a year of
Wow.
him refusing to believe that I was actually going to do this, and that I eventually would probably not make enough money, figure out that I was going to be a broke trainer and not be able to make it, and then revert back to the original idea. And that never happened. Although I was broke, I never gave up on it. So I have Basil to blame and to thank for being a trainer versus going into law enforcement and doing that whole thing. And I've never regretted it. I still don't.
During the early years when you were broke, did that continue to be a point of contention? How'd you
100%.
How'd you keep going?
Sometimes I don't know. There were times, very few and far, you know, that I, you know, would have these conversations with my friends because they were going into sales, doing communications as a major, or business, or engineering, and their 5 to 6 year plan sounded way more lucrative than mine, and probably was, you know, if I still were in contact with these people. I would honestly let the day-to-day prove to me that was still better than having financial success, but going home so sad and so upset and so depressed and angry, upset with what I had to deal with in that day. Because I would train clients who would tell me, that had 10 times more money than me, but tell me, oh God, I would love to do what you do. And like lawyers I would train that were making so much more money, driving nice Porsches into the gym, and I'd be like, "But look, you're a Porsche out there, dude. What, are you kidding me? You have a ton of money." And he would be like, "Yeah, but I fucking hate my life. I hate my job." He was like, I got to come here and work out with you at 9 p.m. because I've been working since 5 a.m., 6 a.m. for someone else, trying to make basically, do what I need to do so that I can get to the next thing or get the next promotion or get invited to be a partner at a law firm or whatever it was. And it kept being this way that life was showing me or telling me that although I didn't have the shiny objects that they did, I still got through 12 hours of work and laughed, joked, smiled, and had a great time. So I think I relied heavily on being present, and I didn't worry as much about the future, which, again, I sometimes wish I did a little bit more, save and put things away and try to think about like a long-term plan that way. But yeah, I think it was really just me being a fool. Me staying a trainer meant like I had a foolish dream. That's all I can view it as, even looking back on it, is not worrying about being broke even in the future, is I was trying to protect this bubble I was in, which is I love showing up at this place, even if it means not driving a nice car, even if it means, not having a nice home. I love this so much, and this is where we spend a majority of our day is at work. So I was like, I just don't want to lose this workspace.
Yeah. In a way, you just answered this, but I want to rephrase it a little bit and see if you have any additional thoughts. I know some people who are living a similar path to what you are, where they're in their middle of their 20s, and instead of going to college and getting the job in corporate America, they're chasing after this thing. And for them, when they get stressed out, it's not even because of lack of money necessarily, although they are stressed about that. It's more so when there's a situation where maybe my buddy's girlfriend's father calls him and says, you've been making this claim to us that you're going to be able to provide for our daughter if you guys get married one day for 3 years now. It's time to get a quote unquote real job or time to break up.
Yeah.
And that's when they're like, fuck, I don't know if I should keep going with this foolish dream or if it's time to reevaluate.
Yeah.
Knowing that there could be other people listening right now who are in the thick of this, what, for lack of a better term, what would you say to them? What would your advice be in those moments?
I would say that if that example specifically,
Sure, yeah,
I never had. I luckily met someone who was also in a similar walk of life with a father who was in corporate America, and she's now my wife, but he wouldn't tell me specifically, but he would tell her, I hope you marry someone who can afford nice things because you are someone with the taste for nice things. And that used to echo in my mind and drive me, but I never got a threat from him that was even remotely similar to, you either provide for her or break up with her. It was, hey, I hope y'all are good because she's going to want some stuff. But he also, was very inviting to me, very nice. He loved my character, and I was friends with my wife's brother before I ever knew she existed. So I had been kind of invited into the home, into the family. He trusted me as a young kid as well. So it was more than just this random, whatever. But also at the same time, I had a good head on my shoulders, I like to believe. All my friends and all the people that respected me were much older than me. I very rarely had friends that were my age after high school. And I think that was because I thought a lot more maturely about a lot of things, because Basil and all these people helped shape my mind and helped me get to a point, or just make me feel like I was older. And so I treated people with an immense amount of respect. I was also, I went to college, got my 4-year degree. It's not like I dropped out of college maybe. That was another thing, is that I feel like I was one of the last generations to view college as a necessity. And I to this day didn't need college, I think. I have an English degree that I was going to apply to law school with. Other than, reading a bunch of books and knowing grammar very well I don't, and now with AI, it's like you don't even need to know how to write. But I think I came off to a lot of people, or whether as a boyfriend status and whatnot, as someone who, was going to make something of himself. It just was a matter of time. I didn't lack ambition. I just lacked the correct career path from a lot of people's perspective, because training back 15 years ago was you were just some meathead in the gym. You weren't. Now in Austin, Texas, it's like every other person is a personal trainer.
Yeah, a coach
or a coach of some sort. I'm an online coach, and they're making $15,000 a month. It's back then it was you're working at some, some fitness club, and you're making $20 to $25 an hour, $30 an hour, which both was a lot of money and wasn't a lot of money. It is a lot of money because most minimum wage jobs were like between $11 and $14 an hour. So it was above a minimum wage job. Wasn't McDonald's, obviously, but it was inconsistent because you had to hunt for your clients and you had to create a full schedule of 20. If I had 12 hours of $25, $30 an hour, that was not bad money, but it never is that. And that's the problem with personal training, is that you create your own schedule, which means you create your own schedule. You have to acquire these clients. So, I would say that if I was in that experience that you spoke about, I probably would have had to find someone new, because I wouldn't have left what I was doing for anyone. And Basil was he was 40 years old and single. So I think at the time also I probably was a little disillusioned and thought to myself, maybe I'm going to be single for 40 years. I didn't see I never thought like that I was going to be slowing down anytime soon. I saw a lot of people in the fitness industry that were single and older and just dating younger women, because that's what a lot of them did. So for me, I was like, that doesn't look too bad, because we're in shape. We're getting older, but we're also still in shape.
Yeah.
While the people that are my age are gaining weight and working a corporate job and not looking very appealing, and maybe not being, in like their best self in that way, but they just have a lot of money. They just have the financial factor, which is a big part of it. So yeah, it's a strange thing I've never thought about, because I got lucky in that way. But yeah, I would probably have to walk away and find someone who supported me and was interested in and invested in going from rags to riches and having that story, which means like you got to go through the rags for a while, you know, and that's what makes it so inspiring too. When you hear a story like that, it's not an overnight thing. Yeah. So, yeah.
Well, we're not quite done yet, but we're going to probably wrap up here soon. I've enjoyed this so much. Yeah. Did this go any direction that you expected it to go? Because for me, this has all been, I have loved every second of it, but I was not expecting it to go the direction it did.
No, I never, with open-ended podcasts like this, and all of mine were the same. If you ever listen to any 20 episodes that I did, we never had structure. It was called Life Without Instructions, which meant every episode had no instructions. And I enjoyed it that way, because I enjoy conversations like this. These are conversations at the trailer go, at the coffee shop. It's totally unhinged. It's very random. It goes in any which way, but it's human. And it doesn't feel like this, like the same interview you'd see 10 times. Yeah. You know?
Yeah. Before I ask you my last 2 or 3 questions, shout out the coffee shop. What's it called? Where is it at? And let's get some people over there.
Yeah. So Strong Coffee Company trailer. It's a long one. The umbrella company is called Strong Coffee Company. Strong Coffee Company. It's existed for 5-6 years. It's been around since 2019. It's an online company that sells coffee. So the way that I describe it to people is it's like you going to Starbucks, Merit Coffee, whatever coffee's local, and their beans are usually, although most people, they don't roast their own beans. They get it from a farm somewhere in Colombia, wherever, and then they slap their labeling on it, or they literally use someone else's beans, and that's why you'll see like proudly serving this coffee, right?
Yep.
So you've seen that sign somewhere. So that's how I see the coffee trailer, is that I own the trailer, but I don't own the coffee company. Because people will ask me like, oh, do you own Strong Coffee Company? And I go, no, that's this guy named Adam. He's the founder of that company. He's, owned it for 6 years now. Wonderful guy. And, he's the one who invited me to own the coffee trailer, right, with their branding on it. I get to do anything in terms of creativity outside of the fact that I'm acquiring and providing the customer with their coffee. So I get their instant coffee, which has protein in it. That's their kind of their bread and butter, I guess, if you want to call it that, is these collagen protein lattes that have 15 grams of protein in them, L-theanine, ashwagandha, lion's mane. So it has all these nootropics and these things to help you with cognitive function, and electrolytes, coconut water specifically, that's in a powder form. So it doesn't taste like coconut. And you add it to water or milk, put some ice in it if you want it iced, or keep it hot if you want it hot. And it's convenient, one, where when you're traveling, but also if you're just someone who has a busy lifestyle and you don't want to have a shitty cup of coffee from Starbucks on the way to work and pay upwards of $6 to $8 for it, because that's probably the cheapest coffee you can get nowadays, is around $6.
Yep.
And usually much more than that. And it gets loaded, so it's $3 a serving, and it gets loaded with all these benefits. You get the protein, you almost get like breakfast in a way in a cup.
Yeah. And
most people just survive off coffee for 5 hours till they get to lunch, right?
That's me.
And a lot of people do. So
for better or for worse.
Yeah. So that's what our idea was, is why don't we open up this trailer that is, one, mobile, because eventually we would love to move it places once we get a generator and get these other things going. But for now, it's stationary. It's in the same place always, 6 a.m. to 1 p.m. every day at CrossFit Central, downtown Austin, and which is right off 5th Street. But we provide the collagen protein lattes in different flavors: snickerdoodle, vanilla, hazelnut, and then we also have espresso beans as well. So we're a full-blown coffee shop. I can just make you a regular latte if you're someone who is scared of dabbling in like the protein latte or protein coffee space, or I can give you a protein latte and add a shot of espresso to it, give you a perfect blend with a little more caffeine, or I can just give you the regular protein latte. So that's our base menu, and then we sell protein waffles as well. That's a batch that I literally make homemade. It's a pain in the ass, but I do it. And I make it, bring it to the trailer. We cook it fresh. We have a commercial waffle iron, so I can make waffles on repeat. And that's basically what we sell on our menu mainly. And then we do electrolyte refreshers, all these other things. So I just wanted to make a healthier, cheaper, not healthier, just as healthy, cheaper version of. Have you ever heard of Sun Life Organics?
No.
So it's like a smoothie and coffee place downtown off Congress Street, and I wanted, in an effort to have something that is affordable but also good for you, that's where I had it in mind. Or I say to people, because everyone knows McDonald's, I wanted to do a healthy version of like the McCafe from the early 2000s. Like, remember, like the dollar menu was actually $1.
Yep.
So I want people to come to the trailer and be like, oh, I can get a waffle for $7, like a massive waffle with 25, 30 grams of protein in it. Or I can get a meal for $10 with a coffee and a big ass waffle, So that was my thing, was either I relate it to something everyone knows, which is like a healthy McCafe or McDonald's, or a cheaper version of Sun Life to the people that are in the health space here. And I think we've been able to achieve that. I just need the foot traffic. I think I'm far away from where people are walking for lunch downtown when they're on their lunch break. So people aren't going to get in their car if they work at Google, drive over to my trailer that's 10 minutes away from their building, get, a waffle and a coffee, and then go back to work. They're probably just going to eat whatever is in their space, if they have a cafe room or some type of work room, and then once we get location, I think it'll be optimal. But as far as where we are now, it's working, and I'm just doing the best that I can with what I have, and pouring every ounce of energy I have into sourcing ingredients for the things that are on our menu that people, one, enjoy, because you can't get something healthy and it also tastes shitty.
No, it doesn't work.
It doesn't work. You'll never go back. You don't care how good it is for you. If it doesn't taste good, you're not going to want it. So I have to find this perfect intersect constantly of, does this taste good and is it good for you? And I think we've been able to do that.
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't know you had the waffles. I want to come try those now.
Yeah.
I haven't made it out there yet, but I will. I promise. And are you still, before I ask you that question, are you still teaching as well? If there's anyone that's looking to do some boxing, or is that
I
sort
am.
of... Yeah.
I do personal training. I converted my garage into a gym. So I train people out of my garage, which is so convenient for me because I get off the trailer. I just want to go straight home anyway.
Yeah.
So I get to have people come to me, train with me. And mitt work I can do anywhere. I can do it at a park. I mean, given it's not 105 degrees outside. I can do it, and I have a lot of groups that I run at, like local parks, Zilker, and you know, the like. So that is something I also do. I was the head trainer at Nike training studios up until last month. So I gave that up entirely. I'm done teaching group classes for a little while. It's a little too demanding for me. But yeah, I'm still training on the side for sure.
Cool. Well, make sure to send me any links that you want to send me. So I'll put everything in the show notes, and then the audience, if you're interested, scroll down a little bit and you'll be able to see where the coffee trailer is located, how they can get in touch with you, all that good stuff. For the gentleman at the coffee shop who told you about why he moved here, did you ever see him again?
Yeah, he came today to get a waffle.
How's he doing?
He's I didn't ask him today. It was like he came right as I was closing. He I think he forgot that we close at 12 o'clock on Saturdays versus 1 p.m. on weekdays. So he got one of the last waffles that I had batter for, and because he loves them, he just digs them. And since then I invited him to the church that I go to, and he went, and he had a great time. He cooked up with some people and connected, got into the community a little bit that way. And it's helping him, I think, with his experience moving away from that lifestyle and wanting to get away from, you know, toxic people and toxic substances.
Yeah. It hasn't happened a ton, but every now and then someone will approach me and tell me something that's just incredibly personal. And it's almost like they just handed me a gift. Like, I'm a stranger to you.
Yeah.
And you just told me that, and I just want to dig in more, obviously, as that's in my nature. But just I want to know more. I would have had to tell whoever was working with me that day, hey, I'm going to go sit at the table with this guy for 30 minutes. Can you guys cover the register?
I wish I could. You know, if I had another employee, I definitely, because I get caught in some conversations and there's people behind them, and I go, oh, I almost want to create the culture at the trailer, at the truck, that is, if you see me talking to someone, it's going to take a few minutes, because we're not a Starbucks. If you came here for a quick cup of coffee, you might as well go down the street and get it, because I like to get to know the people that I'm serving for. It's like a haircut, you know? Yeah. That's how I view it. So, and maybe I'll change the game in that way, but that's kind of the culture I want to create at the truck a little bit.
I don't know if this would be a terrible idea because it would remove one interaction, but I almost wonder if like you had a pre-filled out menu, so that way someone doesn't have to talk to you, but they could fill it out. If you're talking to someone else, you grab their ticket and then you start making that drink while you're wrapping up the conversation.
That'd be smart.
But then you also lose out on interacting with that person, so it's a two-edged sword.
You know, which you know, and some people don't want to talk. That's also another thing. Yeah, they're not able, willing, wanting, whatever it is. So the person who is wanting to chat, I think it does lend itself to that. Yeah. You know, to give them a little more time to keep getting stuff out, because I love learning about people. That's what I realized. Like, this is obviously why you do this. Yeah. Is stories are amazing from other people. Yeah.
I've asked a few people this now, probably 8 to 10, and no answer has been even a little bit similar. And so I want to keep asking it just because I find the answers very interesting. What gives you hope?
What gives me hope? Now, I mean, if you would have asked me over 2 years ago, I would have said probably, you know, something random, honestly, or somebody, maybe my wife, which she does. She still gives me a lot of hope. She provides a lot of that. But about a year and some change ago, I started going to the church that I'm going to now and kind of reconnecting with God and my faith. And prior to then, I grew up Catholic, but you know, you wouldn't catch me. I think I've been in a church before 2 years ago 2 times in my whole life. Never ever wanted to go to church. It was boring. Didn't care for it. So now, like, I would say that my faith and my connection to Jesus and God is what gives me hope, and knowing that someone else is taking care of a lot of it, and that I don't need to be in control of everything because I'm a control freak. So that provides me a lot of relief in that way. And the closer I can connect with that part of myself and releasing that and just being kind of a loyal servant in that way, and knowing that there's a greater purpose in something that's going on and it's not all about me is also huge, because I always am trying to extract the ego from all of it. So yeah, I would say right now, my faith gives me hope.
I love it.
Yeah.
Well, you don't have to give me an answer right now in case you want to chew on it, but I would love to have you back on sometime in the next 12 to 18 months. I've really enjoyed this conversation. I'd like to just see how your life and your journey has continued to evolve. So if you would like to come back on, know that door is open to you, and I'd love to get you back on again in the future.
Love it. Yeah, I'm in for it. I'm good.
For this final question, I don't know what it's going to be. I have these series of cards. We're going to mix them up a little bit here, and you're going to pick one. And if you don't mind, read it out loud.
Got it.
And give us your answer.
What lesson have you learned from your lowest point, and is there anything about it that you're grateful for? What lesson have I learned from my lowest point? I mean, I'm sure there's multiple ways to approach this. I've had a lot of low points in life, both personally and professionally. But I will say that the lesson I've learned from one of my low points was that you are 100% in control of your reaction to things, to people, to answers, to conversations that you have with people or that you overhear and whatnot. All the information that's presented to you, you have a choice to react to it, right? Or sit with it, understand it, and respond. And I have always been more of a reaction person. I think that's where the fighting kind of played into that as well, is like having a reaction that's involuntary. And I think while people say that boxing teaches you to control your emotions and to have an outlet for them, at the same time, it also teaches you that just to let instinct take over sometimes. But instinct isn't always correct. So I think that I had a lot of lashing out when I was in my 20s. And now that I'm in my 30s, I'm learning more and more to be, one, responsible for how I react to other people and how I react to my wife or my friends or my family. And I think I'm grateful for the opportunities that I had to fail more than I ever was when I was failing. So, if I had a bad experience with someone or reacted to my girlfriend at the time a certain way that I thought was poor, and said things that were hurtful, I think that now I'm able to just delay that response a little bit more. It just takes it happening and you taking more and more time away from it, is what I've learned. So yeah, I would say that a lot of it has been just communication. I lowest points have always been like miscommunication, just me not communicating well. And you might not save every one of those experiences with those people or save a relationship if you've gone too far or said the wrong thing, but you can learn and not repeat that in the future. So
I love it. Thank you for that so much.
Yeah.
Well, man, this was super fun. Is there anything else that you wanted to riff on, or do you feel good for episode 1?
I'm good. I mean, I think that this was it was nice I went into this thinking that I was going to probably exclusively talk about the coffee shop, and
we never brought it up.
Barely brought it up, which is totally fine. It's only been 3 months of my life now.
Yeah.
So, you know, a majority of my life has been spent doing kind of the stuff that we talked about. So, yeah.
Well, thank you so much for everything you brought to the table. I really appreciate it. To the audience, thank you so much, as always, for tuning in, you guys. If you haven't already and you enjoyed this episode, like I said, partner with the podcast and hit that subscribe button if you're on YouTube. Follow the podcast if you're on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. That way we can spread these stories to any young adult or teenager that needs to hear them so they can get their own internal fire lit to chase after whatever it is they're currently trying to chase after. And if you're in Austin in February, come to the live podcast. It'll be on Saturday, the 28th at 1 p.m. It'll last for about 2.5 hours. It's going to be a super fun time. It's going to be electric, and I know you're going to get a ton out of it. So I would love to meet you in person. Until then, stay healthy, stay happy, and I'll see you next Saturday night. Bye, everyone.